Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties there. Sorry about that, really. So I'll probably run through it quite quickly, really. I probably wouldn't go through. Were you on my first talk this morning by any chance? Any of you, probably? Were you around, really, with the first talk? Because there's a quick introduction of me, then I'll probably continue with the introduction then. So that's me at 5 years of age on my 5th birthday in a police uniform, actually. So that clearly tells that I wanted to be a police officer. That plan's never worked out, so probably I'm not one, really, so that you can see that. But I've got a Twitter name which says something similar like that. So anyway, that's what I've been in IT for nearly 17 years now, since 1999. I've been in various roles, really, technologies and business roles and different various stuff, really. And passionate about cyber things, writing a book on cybersecurity. Quick agenda, why do you need a security culture? How do you build one? Strategies on that, and some key takeaways for it. So why do you need a security culture? The first thing, probably, it reminds me of a quote from Bruce Schneier, you might know probably, is amateurs hack systems, professionals hack people. And it's absolutely true even today, really. More than 90% of the cybercrime actually is initiated by someone, a user, an uninformed user, clicking on a link and infecting their own PC. This is how most of the cybercrime actually initiates. It may not be the only way, of course, there are many other technical ways, of course, but why would someone actually try and break into systems when they can break into people even more easier without any hard work with that? So it's absolutely crucial to have informed people, and that's what the whole talk is about in this one. So ITSEC did a survey actually early this year, and talked about the biggest threats to the organizations, and social engineering and insider threats were on the top itself. Social engineering is the key to this because we have users who get social engineered into it, and this is how we start all the crime statistics. So looking into social engineering side, we're mainly going to be focusing, if we look in the phishing statistics, there was a report a couple of weeks ago which was released by RSA, and it confirmed that they had probably seen more than 300% increase in a year itself, and that's a massive thing. Today we've seen quite a few speakers who've talked about phishing campaigns, and they've been quite impressive the way they've been doing it. How can we solve the problem actually with this? So we need to have something in place to make these users informed about the threats out there, because if the users are not informed, they probably go and click something which tries and infects the PC, and this is how things start. So security awareness is an ability of a user to either recognize by avoiding bad behaviors or practicing some good behaviors. So either you make them aware that what the bad behaviors are actually, so they don't compromise the security of your business, and similarly you tell them how to practice some good behaviors. That's all it's all about. The focus is not actually only on behaviors, but the end goal is about getting a change in the culture of the business. And in the short term, it can help by just changing behaviors, which actually leads into change in the culture in the long term. So you want to focus on the short-term behaviors actually, and have the goals as you're changing the culture basically in that respect. What are the other reasons you may need awareness or the culture in your organization is regulatory reasons. Maybe your regulator does require you to conduct sessions, trainings, education. Most of the regulators actually do require anyways. PCI, SOX, or any other GDPR, all of these actually in some way or the other do enforce some kind of requirements, basic requirements for you to follow really. So it can be regulatory focused, or it can be compliance focused, or you could be working on best practices like ISO 27000 or the likes, NIST or CIS controls and stuff. All of them actually recommend training users on the cybersecurity threats. The other thing might be data security initiatives. So initiatives might be various around the data protection and data loss prevention kind of areas really, where you're looking to actually secure data. So even if you want to secure data, you would want to probably make the users aware about how to secure, how to classify, how to handle the data, handle the sensitive data itself. So you need to have some kind of awareness campaign, some kind of education component in that respect. Awareness is just one part of your whole program. So ideally, your program might look like something like this, where there are not hundreds of things, at least these are the minimum set of areas you want to focus on. And awareness is just one area of your program, of your information security management program. Talking about the culture, so how do you build it from the start? Say, suppose, in this, among these users, by the show of hands really, how many of you actually do have awareness campaign in your business at this moment, actually, an awareness program? Is there one at the moment running at this moment? Do you have one? Good. Is that more like compliance focused, do you think, or is it more because of a requirement there? Is it just because to follow some practice because you have to be ISO 27000, or you have to report it to PCI or some other regulators?
I work in a local bank, so probably mostly driven by regulatory compliance and just, all of the...
Yeah. Generally it's sort of, most of the organizations in the past have been kind of regulatory driven, which is the compliance driven and kind of areas really, and it generally happens once a year and that's it really probably. So we got to make it more effective in that. To make it more effective, we got to look at different ways of it really. So the first thing is to get a buy-in actually from the business in terms of the security awareness. When you would probably walk and talk to your senior stakeholders, they would say, why would you want it? What would be your main driver for this really actually? What is the main reason? How can it benefit the business in terms of things? So I did prepare a little bit of chart on some of the things you want to probably talk about, that if you didn't had one, and if you had all your employees uninformed about the threats, and if you had a compromise, these are the different loss kind of things you want to look at. And it probably defines itself, because if there was a breach, this is like according to the UK standards, so ICO fines actually a maximum up to 500K if there was a breach. And in fact, we've seen TalkTalk, I don't know if you might know much about TalkTalk, which got compromised last year. Around 150K user records were stolen, and they had to pay around 400K as a fine to the ICO. So it is quite serious in that respect. That's quite an example actually for the senior stakeholders to take note of, that this is serious really, and they need to do something about it. And there are many other parameters. I mean, of course, the TalkTalk lost actually, because I'm taking an example, because the most recent example, they lost around 60 million in costs to remediate this particular whole of the situation, the breach situation. So they lost around 60 million. That's a massive amount of money really as well. And again, the cost could go in millions basically. So what we're trying to do is basically spend probably thousands, not even massive amount, in doing security awareness, making your users aware about what to look for, what to be and how to practice some good behaviors. By having that, you're just spending quite less compared to what you could probably end up. So this is one of the ways actually we could probably get the buy-in from the business. So the second thing would be is to get your roles and responsibilities in place. So have some governance structure in your program itself. So who's going to be doing what in that respect? Who's going to be, you want to have at least few teams as a minimum, like the HR involved with this, because they are the ones the closest with the people. So you want to have, because you're working on the culture of the organization, the HR is the best placed department where you can start with. The second people would be the comms and the marketing and those guys really, because they know how to craft messages which can make sense to the people actually, rather than, IT handling this particular part of it, because IT are technically not sort of, by default, people, social people, they are more they talk more to systems than to people actually. So in that case, if you think about it, it's more about getting the right people in the place actually for this particular job. Same thing, you need sponsors, you need absolutely good commitment, support from the C-level executives, from your senior stakeholders. Unless you have good support from them, this program would not get your right results, what you're looking for. First thing you want to get is get a sponsor, get your buy-in first. Get your actually commitment from the C-level or the stakeholders to commit that they would be supporting this particular program, and why would they need to. So get marketing involved, get comms involved, get human resources involved, because they're the closest people actually to this, to the culture thing. Make it relevant again. This is the absolutely crucial point. So once you've got the buy-in, once you've got the roles and responsibilities in place, make it relevant to the organization. There are many different things you want to look at is operations, like, what kind of industry does that business work in? Is it like a charity? Is it a business? Is it an organization? Is it sort of a military? What kind of organization it is? demographics. Is it like a small to medium business, a medium to large, spread across many offices, single office? Demographics is absolutely important there again. So you can target exactly how to define it. Because if it's a global organization, you want to look at different languages, maybe different laws may be different for different groups of people or different parts of the other parts of the world. So culture, what kind of management culture is at the moment actually? Is it too strict? Is it too restrictive? Is it too lenient in that respect? You want to take all these things into account. Again, make it targeted. So if you're focusing on particular groups of people actually in the business, you want to make it absolutely targeted to those people. If they are people actually from finance, you want to make sure that it has something that will catch their interest rather than your interest. You've got to look at their interest first than your interest. Of course, the message has to get through still, but you have to make sure that you tailor it according to your groups of people actually in that case. The IT might have different targets, so you might have to have more technically focused presentations or content for the IT and stuff. So make it very targeted actually in that respect. Again, regulatory and legal laws will drive your main program as well, really, in that case. So make it relevant, make it interesting for them to be interested in your program. Be creative with this. Now, delivery could be in many different ways. The way we've seen is actually some of the ways I've seen work in my place, when my organization is classroom-based, in person, speaking to people, engaging with people actually really creates a good effect. Rather than, most of the programs are actually compliance-based. They are sort of, once in a year, they probably send across videos. Somebody has to watch them, sign off, say that, okay, they've ticked it, they've done it, they've taken 10 questions of it, they passed, and they get a certificate, and that's it. Generally, that's the general way of doing things. But I think we have to be more creative with that, really. I think the more you engage with the people, the more you talk about things, the more interest you get from them is, this is how it generally works. Get sort of lunch and learn sessions, because everybody likes a free lunch. But there is nothing like a free lunch. So there is a catch there, really. So lunch and learn sessions actually work quite well, actually, with most of the people there. Only 15 minutes, you can definitely get their attention for 15, 20 minutes. It's not a lot to ask, to be honest. Get some posters out there in the building, across the building, to make sure that you have, you are reminding them in every way, actually, in that case. Because having a program once, is not enough. The more reminders you have, it just affects them and reminding them basically and changing their behaviors in that respect. Get some newsletters out once in a quarter, actually. Once in a quarter, get some, one newsletter about, different new threats or different talks about, how there are different social engineering scams. Something for them to remind again, basically. Have some forums. If you have the facility of a website or something in your sort of business, have some forums. Let people talk about it. The more they talk, the more they learn from that. So, and the more they feel interested. Make it, one more point which I probably missed here is make it as personal to them as possible. Because the way we designed our program actually from the scratch, because we had a non-existent, so we started from all the scratch, or we had a compliance base actually rather not existent, but it was more compliance based. So the way we started was to make it personal for them to take ideas that they can use it at home. If that really worked for them because it connected them, because they were looking at things for home protection rather than, at work. And they did bring the same behaviors. So when they did different things like, when they had phishing emails, they would do all the investigations, what probably they would do at home, and then they do practice the same kind of behaviors even at work. That worked both the ways for us in that case. So changing, behaviors in that case in their personal life would really connect with them rather than, just talking about work things, because that doesn't really connect with them. Security is not their job. Security is, supposed to be, or they expect that security is about IT's job. So the best thing is to connect with them in terms of personal level, and that really works. There are people actually do even e-learning modules like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, kind of modules where they send across in some short burst of videos once in a while. That also works well, I've noticed, really. Workshops, demonstrate. The more you demonstrate, the more they see the actual things happening, how it happens. You can even show them, like, say if there was a malware infection, if they clicked on something, how the PC would behave, how it probably would impact. They would not know anything about it, but it would be something learning for them. Workshops actually do really well for them as in that case. So be as creative. These are some of the ideas I had, really. Be as creative as possible. When you design your program, you've got to have some kind of statistics you're going to be measuring it against. So define your statistics, what you're going to be measuring on actually in the well in advance of it. You don't want to be taking too many sort of, parameters for it. Maybe just pick 2 or top 3 parameters that really affect your business. It might be phishing, it might be, social, and it might be some other kind of malware attacks. Just pick 1 or 2 or 3 top 2 or 3 basically. Once you know exactly top 2 or 3 are your parameters you'll be measuring against, you can actually judge at the end of the program whether it has affected in any better way in that respect. So the less number of metrics, it'll help you actually to sort of gain a better advantage in that case. So in the maturity model, depending on where you are on this chart, you could probably be compliance focused. You want to probably drive into the awareness or the promoting the awareness and behavior change. You want to design the program in that respect. Wherever you are, you can start from anywhere and then keep your goals as a long-term cultural change, as I mentioned, and then have stronger metrics, stronger framework on the metrics as well, actually, in that case. So the culture basic, so in short, the program should ideally look like this, or should be, the strategy should look like this. Get a buy-in first. That's the most important key for that business. And get the build, the program content build basically, whether you build it in-house, whether you buy it, do a mix of it, do various, be creative on this part of the program itself. Deliver it and measure it. These are the 4 key actually for the culture program in that respect. Key takeaways, last slide from me. So get a buy-in from the senior management, involve various teams to support you in this journey. Now, we've talked about the key teams. You want to have at least the HR and the comms team, marketing teams to be involved with this and build a strategy, make it relevant. I can't stress enough, how much to make it relevant, because if it's not relevant to them, they don't really feel interested in that. Make it absolutely relevant for the people they work for. So build or buy, it depends on you, depends on the business. Make a mix of 2 if you want and keep it updated. So it shouldn't be like once in a year, it should be more recurring. So maybe 3 months, once in 3 months, once in a quarter or something. Keep it updated with new things. So at least they have something to relate to actually in that respect and what kind of things are happening out there. Track and measure again. So just some food for thought for the last session. Each individual in your business can actually either potentially contribute to improve or compromise your security of the business. It's up to you to decide. Make sure you make the best of it. There are some references over here. If you are probably new to the culture side of things, I would definitely recommend some of the good people who have been working in this particular area. Kai Royer is from probably somewhere from the Nordics, and Lance Spitzner. These 2 guys are very, very good, and they've got loads and loads of material on their websites. So I think Lance Spitzner's website is actually Securing the Human. He does a very, very good job, and he has a really good portfolio of different articles and sort of videos and stuff. If you want to follow him, there's many other things you can probably. There's also sort of a maturity model and stuff. There's frameworks for that. You can find all these links. I'm hoping that you will probably be given these slides by the organizers at some point. I'm hoping with that, or if not, then they can pull it from my LinkedIn profile or something. So that's my LinkedIn profile, and there's my Twitter. More than happy to connect with anyone, and if you've got any questions, I'm here to answer them now, or you can ask me later on whenever you feel like. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure. Any questions, I'm more than happy to take now if you have.
Any questions? Where are all the questioners? Okay,
Yeah,
sure,
sure.
Of course.
Thank you. So yeah, I am actually doing those awareness sessions, and actually it's really difficult to get, IT techies into the room, into the classroom, to come and attend and actually participate. Because they feel distant from, all the security stuff and the penalties the bank is paying. So, the bank is paying, so I'm doing my stuff, only what is within my, profile.
Yeah.
So what would be your, advice, for those technical people? Because I'm not a technical person. I'm more like a manager for, risk. And then how should we, find the dialogue? And what would be your recommendation?
I think that's quite tough. I agree with you. I agree with the situation, actually. It's quite tough, really. The way it has worked for me was basically to get the support from their managers or their directors, get them to push through. So they have to buy in first before actually you can get the buy-in from the users themselves, really. Getting the commitment from the directors or the stakeholders who actually handle, like the CIO or whoever handles the IT teams, you need to have buy-in from them, that it is important. The way we went through was we just mentioned it was mandatory for everyone. So this is how we started actually, basically, the sessions, whether it be users or be IT, everybody has to go through. The only thing we did was we made a little bit tailored in that respect, was we didn't talk probably for 30 minutes, we talked probably for 20 minutes, 15 minutes with the IT rather than, because the problem is the IT always thinks that they know everything because they are, so close to technical, but the problems they have is they do practice a lot of bad behaviors at times. You may not notice, they may use keys which are same, maybe similar passwords and stuff. They do as well similar problems actually. And they have access to a lot more than probably normal users. And that's the risk there. So I probably recommend, getting to the key stakeholders, getting them to, buy in, make some tailored content just for them, make sure that this is how I would probably try and focus on that.
Yeah, and just a follow-up question then, how would you measure the maturity of, risk culture in the organizations, and what factors you would look at just to say it's bad or it's good or is somewhere in the middle?
I think for the metrics, you have to have at least 2 or 3 metrics defined from the start that you would be measuring on when you are near to the end of your program or probably midway. So say most of the people actually go for one of the simplest metrics is the phishing and stuff. So if you used to probably have 500 people in the start clicking on things, maybe that has been reduced from 500 to probably even 100 or probably 150 or 200. That's a massive difference really you've achieved, and this probably more likely it's because of the program you've been running really in that respect. So that's the key metric actually, I would say. There are probably other metrics, I'm sure there are, like social engineering scams and stuff, and there probably would be other metrics like malware infections and those kind of things. So I think every organization probably would have to select some different metrics pertaining to that particular organization, because every organization has different threats they handle. So depending on that, you would got to pick some few ones which are key for your business.
So for example, if 10% of the people press the link in phishing attack, would you class that as a bad culture?
It depends how much is that 10%. If it's a massively causing problem for the business, then it probably is serious concern actually. Say, suppose that 10% is actually caused you at least around 5 or 10 incidents in a year, then that is quite serious actually. If you can reduce the number of incidents at the end of the year, then that is a measure you can count on actually, that even though we had probably 5 people actually clicked on it, but we had just 1 incident, maybe because they didn't do anything other than that really. So, or they reported immediately after that. So that probably caused, contained your incident itself.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
From anybody? I have to think of one because that's sort of my profession, but the social and human engineering, I was sort of thinking, you showed that childhood picture of yourself, and there was another person in that, a sibling, a best friend, and were I up to something, I could probably sort of try to get out what that person's name was. And if this is something that has stuck with you all your life, it's a sibling, it's a cherished childhood friend, well, maybe it's part of a password you have, right? I mean, that's how it would work, wouldn't it?
Sorry, I didn't understand the picture. You mean the start picture?
Yeah. I mean, if we were to continue down that, and I was to find out the name of this person, and to also to find out that it's it's a sibling or a cherished childhood friend, then that you are still somehow in your mind, and maybe it was something you would throw into your password, right?
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
especially if it's probably an unlikely South Asian name. It's not John or Harry.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be part of the way to.
Yeah. This is the thing, actually. I mean, when you talk about passwords and stuff, really, most people actually go for the easy passwords and stuff. Either using some people's names and stuff, which is the concern, really. So, as you said, I think, having some sort of a...
So, I could try Imran X87 or Ashad, or whatever. I'm just, coming up with these random Asian-sounding names, and there I am.
True.
I'm in your system.
True. That's true. So this is exactly the problem. So people don't really hack systems. I mean, they do hack, but they're not as much. I mean, we rarely hear that firewalls were breached. Most of the incidents we've seen is it started actually sort of some kind of people, someone clicked on something, they installed malware, and that's how they got the entry point. So,
or for that matter, I mean, you could I mean, in a summer environment where people are wearing T-shirts, you could even look at the tattoos on somebody's shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true, yeah. Yeah.
For the names or for the...
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely agree with you, yeah. Yeah.
And then, and these are not, I mean, this is nothing that can be stopped by...
No.
By the conventional technologically based
That's
systems,
right, yeah.
right? I mean,
that's
you go, you go into a public place where there are sneaky people with your, 2nd Regiment U.S. 82nd Airborne on that you tattooed there when you were drunk in a bar in Germany.
True.
And that could be a key to...
No, that's true, yeah. Absolutely true. Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah, there's a question.
I'll give you the mic.
My question actually is a little bit about some kind of conspiration theory about we are talking about security and all those threats which actually is not lowering but growing in normal speed, yes, and it's not like we are seeing end of this fight between good guys and bad guys, and the good guys who provide those security instruments and systems, and also this good culture, how we should act, what we should do, and so on and on. I just think that I truly believe that some of those who provide those systems are not working there in purpose, not completely build the system very safe, because otherwise this business could end. And also they probably work out those behaviors and culture, how should we act, and how do you think this risk from this perspective, if we all act like a robot for one particular system, isn't too, how to say, insecure?
I think when it comes to acting with systems, I mean, it probably, at least if the users are informed, like what kind of threats can affect them, if if they behave in certain way, actually, that could probably compromise them, really, in that case. When you talk about systems are same available. So whatever vendors you work with, the same systems are actually available to those hackers as well, or the criminals as well. So they do easily and reverse engineer stuff, make the exploits available for them, which means you've got to ensure that your users are actually always informed about new kind of threats, and at least that they are practicing those kind of behaviors in that respect. So systems are not going to stop anyone from getting through. Basically, they will still get through if they want to. So this is why I feel having a culture or having changing behaviors is more important than just having too many systems. In fact, having too many systems, the more systems you have, the more attack surface you have in that respect. So you got to consider that as well in that case.
Any more questions? Okay, it's the end of the day, and it's the end of the conference session. I just want to thank all the speakers. There's a bag for you, unless it's the third bag of the day.
Probably it's the second bag for me for the day now, at least.
Which actually, I don't know what it contains. It contains some kind of a piece of...
I probably would give it to someone, actually.
There's a couple of after-party things.
I'll probably give it to someone.
I think you've been given a certificate of participation already earlier, perhaps.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because I thought, I had screwed up a bit
some
there.
Some people who have asked me questions at least.
Yeah, the question people here, and the other gentleman back there.